Gateway Gamers podcast.
Hello, welcome to Gateway Gamers podcast. My name is Bryan. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. You know, normally I like to introduce the games to my friend RP, but today's a solo episode, and if I'm doing a solo episode, I have to bring another expert on. And I'm bringing Mike from Board Games for One. How are you, sir? You're trying to mess me up.
I am,
blocked
and you're
you
doing a
off. It's
great
not
job.
happening.
You're doing fantastic. I'm glad to be here. I've been listening to you for a couple years now, so
It's nice to finally, I mean, I always see your face on YouTube, but it's nice to actually talk.
yeah.
And you're actually joining us flooded from hurricane.
I am floating down river. I am floating down the river from. I should know the name of it.
Debbie?
I don't even know the name of the storm. There we go.
I think it's Debbie. Yeah.
I know it hit. I know Florida and down south. They got a lot of flooding. So, so that's a thing. But no, I'm in North Carolina. We have some gray weather, and that's about it. But we always do the prep for it. So I've pretty much been in all day.
As we said, you and I have been talking for a long time. We've been trying to get you on. Things just don't work out. So I'm so happy for you to be here. You are the solo expert to me. When I think of solo gaming, I go to YouTube, I look up and see what you're playing, what you're talking about. If I find a game that has a solo option.
I don't know what I'm talking about.
Know what you're talking about.
My catchphrase is the board gaming every dude to let myself off the hook. Because I get corrected so often. Do you know how often I get corrected? Oh my god, I got corrected by a designer for the first time. That was fun.
What's a game that you kind of got into the field of gaming, and what's like the solo game where you were like, this is my thing, like I like solo gaming, or did you just happen to stumble upon it?
It was I've always been drawn to them. So like I don't remember the games I had as a kid, most of them, but like I had like 13 Dead End Drive was probably one of my favorites. And that made me want to play more games. And I don't know if I had Hero Quest. It was a game with these monster miniatures, and that's all I remember about it, and like a play mat. And I just remembered that being the coolest thing, but I don't know what it is. Like the memory's blocked. If it was traumatized or something, I don't know. But I didn't play games all through my teenage years. And then in my mid-20s, I played Catan, and yes, there we go, Catan. And I only played it for maybe an hour, but I thought, this is neat. This is a neat idea. Didn't play games for another 10 years. And when I visited some friends in Scotland, they are big board gamers. Like they go on to Board Game Geek, like they're actually gamers. And they introduced me to Celestia, which is multiplayer, but it was so much fun. And I loved like the artwork was beautiful. And I just like the whole idea of a video game that is, what would you call it? I always say digital, but it's not digital. It's when you can pick things up, touch them, kinesthetic, pick things up, tactile.
Yeah, there it is.
It was tactile. And it made me so happy. So when I came back to the States, I was driving through Wilmington, North Carolina with a buddy, and I typed into Google Maps board game store. I didn't know like there was like a thing, and this was maybe 2019 or so. And there's Cape Fear Games, the board game store I always feature. I went in and I saw on the shelf Aliens, Another Glorious Day in the Core. And I saw it had a one-player option because I was like, I knew board games were group games, but I don't have a gaming group. And I like the friends I have. Like I have a good network, and I wasn't looking to expand to a whole new circle of friends. Like not to be mean, it's just like you only have so much time. So I was like, I don't want to have to find a gaming group and make a new circle of friends because I won't have time for my current. So I saw Aliens had a 1 to 4. It was like 1 to 4, 1 to 5 player, and I bought it. And I absolutely loved it. And I was like, I need to find more one-player games. And that was very difficult at first, but that kind of started this whole trip, this whole journey thing into solo gaming.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting because 2019 was kind of the cusp of this solo game boom because of what happened a year later. So like
Right.
2020 and the whole pandemic definitely unleashed the
Because when I
solo
started it,
option.
it wasn't so easy to find. I mean,
Yeah.
I know I didn't start till 2019, but like there weren't that I knew of anyway, other than there was like Meet Me at the Table on YouTube. And I know others were covering solo content, but it wasn't like if I searched solo board game, nothing came up.
Hmm.
Maybe that was just my browser, but it wasn't. And even at the board game store, I asked them if they had one player games, and they really weren't sure. Like there was a one player shelf, and it was maybe
Like Friday.
I don't
Like
even
that was a big
it was
one.
like Friday,
Yeah.
yeah, because it wasn't a great shelf.
Yeah.
It didn't really
It was kind
speak
of
to me.
poo-pooed a bit, solo gaming before the pandemic. And
Yeah,
yeah, the pandemic definitely opened the floodgates of solo gaming and made people realize like, oh, like this is a viable option, where I feel like even publishers now will make it a point to make a solo option. Before, you had to go on Board Game Geek and see the
yeah.
variants that people were making, and they made great ones. There's some great made
Which I
variants on
also,
there.
yeah, that's also kind of how I started into it. I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to or make my own mode
Hmm.
or find one. But to go with your podcast, because your Gateway Games, the interesting thing is, even though I went into solo gaming, the gateway part that's interesting is it was through an IP.
Mm.
And I would love to, I would love to be able to say that I, went in through something obscure, but it was through an IP. That was the
There's
first
nothing
one
wrong
that
with
showed
that.
me a one player mode. Yep.
And that's a Gale Force 9 game, right? Isn't that?
That's
Am I
yeah.
thinking? Yeah, I haven't
Yeah.
played that
And
one, but it's always
and
on my
that's a
list.
brutal one to start with because you have to glue the miniatures together. So they're
Mm,
they're plastic sheets. And I didn't know that. They don't tell you on the box. I'm happy that they do it because it makes the game cheaper.
mm,
But I didn't know that. So I opened it and I don't know anything about board games really. Not really, other than
yeah.
I know I'm gonna have to read the rule book. And then I was like, man, you gotta assemble the whole thing. It took me 1 week,
Is
one
it
week because
like the
there's like
Warhammer
one or two
snip,
hundred pieces.
like the
Yeah, because
Warhammer
there's like
snip and glue?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Oh.
each human is like 6 parts and then each
Mm.
alien is like 4 parts. And I didn't know how to do it, so I bought super glue. I didn't know you were supposed to snip the plastic with like scissors, so I twisted them.
Oh man.
Um, it was a hot mess. My fingers were bleeding. I was crying. No, but it was a challenge, but despite that, I still thought it was a great, other than having to put them together, it was a great entry point for me.
Good. I'm glad that got you in. That's a game I haven't checked out yet, but it's definitely on my list. Being, I love the
It's
IP,
still
but
one of my favorites.
the miniatures, I think I knew you had to build them, and that's like an aspect where I'm like I don't, painting isn't my thing. Putting things together, it's why I
Yeah.
never got into Warhammer. Like I was just like, I'd rather just
I
open
would
a
love
box and
it to
go.
be like, and
Oh,
I didn't know. So when I bought that and I saw I had to glue them, I also went to the craft store and I bought the stuff that you're supposed to do to paint it because I'm like, oh, I guess you have to paint it as well. I was very naive.
hmm.
Um, and I tried painting it and I was like, the paint's washing off as I paint it. So then I was like, oh, apparently you have to put a base, and I gave up. So I
Well,
think
you
it's
tried.
wonderful, but it's not
Yeah,
going to
yeah,
happen.
further than I ever would. I think I'm always looking because we have Marvel United, and I'm always like, oh, I would love to just not even like paint them, but just give them like a nice wash. And I'm just
Yeah.
like, nah, I'm all right. I'm not like just.
Yeah.
I know my skill level. So 2019, you're getting into board games. You're jumping in. I know you from Instagram. Did you start Instagram and get into YouTube, or was it the other way, or kind of like the same?
No, I started YouTube
Okay.
first, painfully and awfully. I'm pretty sure I privated all the old videos. I mean, they're all there's some scary stuff, but they were real bad because I was learning how to do video stuff. But no, I started on YouTube and I started with the game Obsession, actually. That was the very first one. And then I discovered that people doing board games are also on Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I found that out afterward. I started the channel really without any networking involved at all, other than
Mm-hmm.
I knew like Watch It Played was a channel, and that's about the extent that I had. Um, so once I saw on Instagram that there were people, I forget who it was, somehow the algorithm popped up a picture of Rococo. I didn't know what Rococo was, but I thought that's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And so I started following that person, and then that led to more and more. And I noticed, I was like, well, if I want to start networking, it seems like Instagram is a good place to network and actually get to know people. Where on YouTube, there's networking as well, but it's in a different way.
Yeah.
So Instagram came within like 3 to 6 months after the start of YouTube.
Okay. I'm in awe of like anyone who does YouTube. The way that people are able to make videos and be creative in that sense, and like how you're able to do that. And like, I know how to edit audio because of this, but like how to edit audio and the lighting and everything else. And like I said, I've watched like how you do things. Like, I think your sense of humor and like your way of doing things is almost in line with mine, which is why I follow you.
Yeah.
But the chaos from, like you said,
Yeah,
that
because
one
we
game.
connected pretty early. Because
Yeah.
I found you, I didn't find you on Instagram. I think I reached out, I don't know, but because I started listening to a few podcasts because I discovered a lot of things at the same time. I discovered there's this thing called a podcast. Around the same time, I discovered that board gaming, like there's a whole store of these things, and I need to make more money now. So I found podcasts at the same time, and I looked up board games, and there were a few that I found. There was Hidden Gems, which is actually a few guys. I got to play with them. Actually, they live in Raleigh, not too far from
Okay.
me.
I like them a
So
lot.
super fun guys. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a fantastic podcast. And then Level Up and Gateway Gamers came up. And I was like, oh, that sounds like a thing. And I think it's right close to when you started.
Yeah, you hit us up pretty early, which is
So
good. I'm
I'm still
surprised we
here.
popped up like that.
Yeah,
If you type up board games, it's good to know how people
you
kind of
did.
find us. But the YouTube process, just kind of walk me through like what's like your thing? Is this just like, all right, I have this game. Like you said, you still get nervous, or are you like, I know this game really well, I'm gonna cover it. And then
No.
what happens? Walk me through the
No,
life of a
no to
YouTuber, a
everything.
famous YouTuber.
Yes, well, and hopefully people that are listening, they're more interested in the games than in me, and that's good. Stay that way. Um, so it does come down to the games, yes, and do I like the game?
Hmm.
But the process for okay, so just like if you're a game designer, you make the game, you want people to play it. So it's the same thing. If I make a video, I want people to see it, and that might mean that what I want to feature and what others want to see aren't the same thing. And I yield to what people want to see. And then what I try to inject is I try to be kind of happy, kind of joyful, like I'm kind of casual. And hopefully then, since people are watching a video, I want them to feel like they're hanging out with me and they feel good about it, right? While also spending time with board games. So first thing I do is I research, not a lot, but I look at the channels that I like or people that I look up to, the styles that I admire, and I look at like, okay, what are they featuring that works? Because it's not that I want to find a glitch, it's I want to find out, I want to do something helpful if I'm putting a video out there, right? So what are people wanting to see? And so I'll see the different ideas and I'll pick an idea. And that will be like a once a month, I'll have a video where I try to do like a high view, high interest video. And so that'll either be shopping at the board game store or a top 10 list, something like that, that I know people are actually interested in right now. What I don't look for are hype games because it stresses me out. So if I see that there's a game popping up everywhere, one, I didn't get it, so
Yeah.
and I don't know that it's available for me to get yet. But the other thing is when I see that, it stresses me out, and I don't want to stress my viewers out. So I don't do hype games. But I will do popular topics because I think they're fun. It's like a discussion. So that's the first thing is what are people looking for and what do they want and how do I package that? So then I'll make my little teeny outline of like half a page and then I'll forget to take it when I'm recording. So it's useless that I make it anyway. and I'll plan ahead of time a little bit, and then I just start recording and talk to the camera.
Mm-hmm.
Afterward, when I'm editing, that's when I'll I try to keep a stock photos of all of my board games, but sometimes it's better quality if I do like a recording of sliding a card or something like that. So sometimes I have to, as I'm recording, I'll have like a gray blanket or something and a light set up so I can pause editing, take the pictures I need to of the game, insert them in immediately. So the editing is the longer part, but I enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
I will only do this in a way as long as I enjoy it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm in awe. Like, it's just how much work that is. Like with RP and I, it's just like, all right, I'm gonna
Yeah.
introduce you to this game. Let's go play. And then we kind of just do the audio. Like, that's all I have to worry about. But like hearing that you have to have pictures
I
of
would
the game, like
prefer
while you're
I would
moving
prefer
around.
doing it with another person, honestly.
Mm,
I would, but it is a solo gaming channel, and um I chose to do this.
mm-hmm.
And it is a little more intimate, and I think viewers, kind of like that, as long as I really want to work on the giving something quality, but you're hanging out with me. Like that is
Mm-hmm.
the vibe I want to attain. So
Yeah.
that's the whole point, because it is for primarily solo gamers. So you are already alone, which you enjoy, but you don't mind someone else in the room. So
Yeah.
if I can be the other person in the room, that's cool.
Whispering.
But it's preferable with another person because you get an interchange. When it's just me looking at the camera, I do have anxiety before. That's
Mm-hmm.
why sometimes the videos are a little chaotic, and while I try to tame it, sometimes I have like a cutoff on how much time I'll spend. Some of that's just because I'm not going to let myself stress out before. When I'm ready, I just set it up, push the record button, sit down and go.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I will never do it because I'll be anxious about it.
Yeah. No, I get that. When I have to solo record for an episode, the first like two, I was a mess. I was like stopping editing, and I was like, you know what? Like, let's just talk. Like, and eventually, like, I still get like weird doing a solo episode, but I've gotten better at it. So I
Yeah.
know that it is just easier to bounce off somebody. So I
Yeah.
understand that point. My one question. Well, thank you for
Okay.
that process, because again, I'm in awe. But the one question I have, and I don't know if you explained it in a video or not, you have Batman and Robin toys on your wall in your videos.
Oh, yeah.
What's and not like just Batman and Robin, but Batman and Robin, the movie figures. What is the reason? It makes me chuckle when I say it, but I'm always like, what did I
Yep.
miss? Like the reasoning for this?
No, you didn't miss. The reasoning is I've moved 3 times and now I'm settled. But I've moved 3 times since I started recording. So that means a new studio each time,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, and I just haven't really figured out how I want it to be set, because I want a nice clean background, but I like the nostalgic retro 80s vibe. And the Batman toys is simply, I wanted something in the background, right? That's about it. And those just happen to be, two of them are from Batman Forever,
Mm-hmm.
and they're two of the Robins from Batman Forever. And the other two, there's an Aquaman and a Robin that are more like the classic DC figures. But the reason is because when I was, I don't know, 11 or 12 years old is when Batman Forever came out, and I just thought Robin was super cool. So I had the whole Batman Forever collection, right? Like I wanted that uniform, I
Yeah,
wanted the
of course.
build.
The
I was
nipples,
like,
the
yeah, well, yeah, the whole thing. But anyway, yeah, so I had that whole collection when I was a kid, and then, sold it out, of course, along with my Legos and all that. So when I found those in a comic shop like a year ago for like $4 each, I got them and I didn't know what to do with them. And then I was just like, I need to record today. I need a background today. Pin, 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 pin. There you go.
I- you probably thought no one noticed, but we did. And
Yeah.
I've
No,
truly
I
like
thought, I'm like, it is a board game channel, and there is not a board game to be seen.
I would just like all of a sudden they just popped up, and I'm like, did I I'm like looking on Instagram. I'm like, did I miss like something here? Like,
Yeah.
well, I'm glad if I
Yeah.
got the story. I was genuinely curious.
No, I enjoy it. Have you ever talked about your podcasting process?
We kind of talked about, I think, either like the 1 year episode or one of those like type of episodes where it's a little more casual. We've talked about it for sure. And like
Okay.
it's kind of the same, but it's a lot more. Our goal is just to kind of like I put out the episode that I would listen to.
Yeah.
Like I enjoy the audience, but I'm like, all right, I'm gonna make something for me. Like
Yeah.
I could try to reach an audience, but it's like work where it's
Yeah.
like I'm gonna make the episode I'm gonna
Well, and
listen
that's
to.
that's an important point. Um, so to clarify more on mine, there is when I'm looking, I I enjoy helping people. That's always
Mhm,
been, and I enjoy teaching. So you look at the careers I've had in my life working in a hospital or working as a teacher, doing volunteer work and things. That's what I enjoy. So I'm
mhm.
always looking for what is helpful. But you're right. At the same time, um, if I try to chase like, well, people are wanting this right now,
Yeah,
that's a
the
little different.
hotness.
That's not what I'm talking
Yeah.
about. That is burnout like 101.
Mhm.
There's no joy in that. But for me, I have to have the mix. So it needs to both be helpful. Like I would love to just do playthroughs of campaign games. I would
Mhm.
love to just lay out either fields and just put out videos of me playing through every single scenario of either fields. That would bring me joy to a point, but nobody's gonna watch,
There
and then I'll
might.
be
You can't
sad.
say that.
Well, no, some
Yeah.
people watch,
But that would bring you
but
joy.
yeah, well, it's a little bit of joy, a little, but it's a lot of work. A
Yeah.
playthrough of editing, you're looking at least 8 hours of
Mhm.
edits, at least probably more like 16. It's a lot of time. And so the joy goes down, where if you put 16 hours into an edit, that's the right mix of I enjoy this and this is helpful, then, well, that 16 hours of editing really paid off.
Yeah.
That was nice because I like the interaction and comments and things like that. I
Mhm.
don't like it when it's just a silent video.
Yeah, that's the one thing about podcasting we don't really get, and that's where we hinge on Instagram more. We finally
Yeah.
just started dabbling into YouTube only because they opened up the podcasting. So we put
Yeah.
our podcast on YouTube. There's no video, but there's audio. But I'm gonna start dabbling a little bit more in like shorts. Like I feel like
Yes.
I can handle some shorts. I can't do a whole video. Again,
I
you're
want
the
to see
master of
Brian in some
shorts, but
shorts. That sounds different
yeah,
than
I'm
I
wearing
meant.
shorts right now.
I want to see Brian do some shorts.
So it's something we'll be dabbling in because it is tough. We don't get a lot of feedback. When someone does reach out on Instagram, like we genuinely are like happy about it. And then
Yeah.
Apple
Because there are a
Podcast
lot of times I
reviews.
want to respond
Mm.
and I'm like, oh, it's a podcast.
Well, yeah, my number now.
Yeah.
Shoot me a text. Um, but yeah, so in the same sense for our podcasting, our goal was literally do this until we're not happy, and then we're done. We could walk away because
Yeah.
we're not monetized. Like we don't make money. Like we enjoy
Yeah.
doing this. I love the editing process, much like you. Like I love sitting down, kind of editing and going through everything. I don't have to edit as much as you, but there's a nice creative outlet about it that I get from it. And then when I put it out, it is like I made something and it's out there. Like it's just a good
Yeah.
feeling. So
Yeah.
that it's very similar, but a lot less work than you do. um
I'm afraid of podcasts, so
well,
that's all
you're on
right.
one, so
I'm on one, but I don't have to do a thing.
yeah, you're right. I gotta do everything.
I don't have to do
Um
a thing.
so current games, I know you don't like the hotness, but what is something that you're playing right now that you're hot on? What's even if it's an older game
Well,
or
I'm okay with hotness. It stresses me out when I see it, and I don't want to cause others that kind of stress.
mm,
If I ever do something and it is the hotness, I'm fine with that.
hmm.
But like trying to be part of it is
It's
like
chasing that
my blood
algorithm.
pressures. Yeah,
Yeah, a
I
lot
would
of
not be
people I
happy.
notice will just put out the hotness and I
Yeah,
get it. Like if your job is YouTube and that's you
Yeah.
need those clicks and you need that. Like, I totally get it. But yeah, the hotness is like, it's tough.
There are options though. Channels do it different ways, and um you can sometimes be part of that, and I'm sure I will be at some point. So I'm not trying to disregard it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so as far as what I'm playing right now, I was trying. You might be able to help me with this because I struggle in the area of, is there such a thing as a gateway solo game? Like the closest mine was Aliens, Another Glorious Day in the Core. That is
Mm-hmm.
not something I would just put in RP's lap and be like,
Yeah.
learn how to do this by yourself. Um, so I have my own games, but I didn't know if, putting you on the spot, do you know of any like gateway? Because it seems like it would be beneficial to be an IP,
Mm-hmm.
affordable, and very easy to find, learn, and play.
I I think the best solo like gateway game would have to be like a co-op, because I enjoy there. It's rare that I buy like a solo game. I've come across a few and I enjoy them, but I like co-ops a lot as a solo game. Like, I think they really mesh well to play as a co-op, because even games like I play Marvel Champions, Marvel United, Marvel Legendary, a lot of Marvel, a lot of IP,
Yeah,
but they'll have like a solo variant, but I'll play the true version, but two-handed, like two-handed solo as it's called. So Marvel
yeah,
Champions, like you could play one player as Spider-Man, but I get more out of it playing as Spider-Man and Iron Man and just kind of like interchanging. So I
yes,
mean, the greatest gateway game, one of the greatest to me, is Forbidden Island, and that's a co-op game.
okay.
So that would be a great like gateway game. You just like, hey, this is how you play this game. You just
Didn't
control two
RP like
people.
that one?
Yeah, everyone loves that game.
Yep.
That's probably like the most gateway game I have to introduce
Okay.
people to the hobby.
Okay. That's good to know.
Yeah, so I think co-op games for sure, because it's tough to like tell a non-gamer to be like, here's this game, you're on your own. Like, at
Yeah.
least with a co-op, you could be like, all right, here's how you play the game. You could take it home and play yourself. You just control two people. Like, so I
Yeah.
think a co-op would be the best kind of gateway into the world of solo.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, even I'm trying to think, like something like Wingspan.
Yeah.
Wingspan is a great like gateway game. It's easy to teach, but God bless like Stonemeyer Games, they
RP
create the
did not
odd.
love.
No, he's a fool, but
You hear
uh,
that?
he knows the autonomous system that Stonemeyer makes for all their games is incredible.
Yeah.
But I also think for a newer gamer, it's like it's a little thinky. Like, it's tough to just sit down and play that system.
Yeah. I think it's after you've gone down the rabbit hole.
Mm-hmm.
Like going through once by the time I got to that, I was fully committed.
Yeah, yeah. But shout out to Stonemeyer. They some of the best solo with that autonomous system. So
Okay. Well, yo, you were asking me about my
yeah,
games.
what are you
Okay.
currently playing? What's like your solo obsession at the moment?
How many do you want?
You give me three.
What's the number limit? Three?
Three. Give me three good
Only
ones.
three. Oh dear. All right,
I
well then let me do
I have to edit this.
variety.
You're not doing work.
Let me do variety. If
Okay.
I only get to pick three. So one is actually the newer series that it's called the Solo Game of the Month. And Gabe Barrett he's not the designer of each of these games, but he is a game designer and he features it every month. But I've been liking those. There's one of them called Dyson Crusoe
Okay.
because it's like Robinson Crusoe light. So I just got the finished version, not the prototype, but like the complete game that just came in. But I like it because it's got like the cool 80s VHS, but it's Robinson Crusoe, which is wonderful, but it's a good bit of setup. You
Mm-hmm.
certainly don't, it's a little harder to travel with. And it's a
It's
more on
tough.
like the medium to
Yeah.
heavy. Yeah.
That's a hard
Yeah.
game.
Which I love that about it,
Yeah.
but you don't just like sit down for dinner and just lay out
Yep.
Robinson Crusoe and play a quick game and go to bed. No, no,
Mm-hmm.
no, no. That's a whole, it's going to be out for the whole weekend. Where Dyson Crusoe, I can open it, set it up in about like 3 minutes, and it has all the same elements where you start out your day by selecting the actions that you're going to take, collect your resources, and then it goes to the end of the day and the animals attack you and destroy the shelter you built up, and the rain comes in and makes you cry, and you're just washing down the river, hanging on to life barely, and then it gets to morning
Mm-hmm.
and you go back out and select your actions. Like, it does all the stuff. It does
Mm-hmm.
all the stuff. Heavy theme, which I like. So Dyson Crusoe's that's been a delight. I really have enjoyed that.
Who makes that again?
That is solo game of the month is, of course, I didn't write down the publisher. It has one player in the name. There we go. Best with One Games, designed by Jinhee Han.
And are they a solo company? They primarily solo games? Okay.
Yep. So far, I think the only thing published is a solo game of the month. So there's a Kickstarter or a game found. There's a crowdfunding, like the third Thursday of every month or something, or third Tuesday of every month. There's a new one. And there's been a different series, but that was kind of the highlight one. I thought that was a real gem. The other is actually what was on the table just a couple weeks ago was Lacrimosa, which is a like 1 to 4 or 5 player game, probably 4 players. It's the Mozart game where
Oh, okay. I
it's a
didn't know the
Mozart
name,
game.
but yep. Yeah.
Yes. So it's a Mozart game. The story of the game, because the story is always important to me, is that Mozart has died. It's a great start. And his surviving wife wants to finish composing this final work that he never finished, called the Lacrimosa. And I probably have that all wrong. And that's fine. It's the idea. And so she's reaching out to other composers, including you, to try to compose this masterpiece, but also to find out collect memories about his life to put together into this one story. So that's the theme. But what's cool is on your turn, so it's a hand management, you have 9 cards on your turn. And you only have 9 cards during the game, but you can upgrade them. So you can get a better card and then discard one of yours. So you're always limited to 9, but you can change it. But what you do is when it's your turn, you just lay down 2 cards. That's it. And one of them is going to be a card that you select for its benefits that you're going to gain at the end of the round. So you just lay it down. It doesn't do a darn thing until the end of the round. You collect whatever resources are on it. Then the other card that you put down is the action that you're going to take on that turn. And you can pick different actions, like you can pick to collect a memory, so that gets you a better card to replace one of your not so great cards. Or you can pick to collect it's not called an opera, but I don't have the rule book in front of me, so I forget what it's called. An opus. I think you collect an opus, which is something that goes in your hand, and then later you have another action that you can oh no, it doesn't go in your hand. I'm sorry. The opus goes out in your tableau. So you also have a tableau to build. And that lets you take another action at another time where you get to play through all your opuses, which all give you different benefits. So you want to build like a nice tableau, so you use that action strategically. And then another you can add to I'm going to call it the symphony, where you add like a note to a symphony and it gives you a benefit. I don't remember as much about that. And another is you get to move around on a map. I like a map. I want a board with a map. So you can travel around Europe to these different locations, and when you visit that location, you get special benefits based on what's there. There's plenty more to it, but that's the basic idea. Is you take those actions.
I'm very curious about that game, so I'm kind of glad to get like a good rundown. How does it play? I know we're talking solo, but how does it play with other people? Is there interaction, or is it kind of like you're playing solo against one another?
Well, this is going to be in theory, because I've only played it solo. So your solo opponent is actually an opponent that mimics a real player. So they do collect points. They travel around the map. They take things away from you. In order to play solo, you have to learn all the multiplayer roles. So in theory, in my head, playing with an imaginary person, there definitely is a medium level of interaction. So
Okay.
it's not like Wingspan where there's
That's what I was
a
thinking.
little bit.
Yeah.
Not at all. Not at all, because you are going for the same resources.
Okay.
So the only part that's totally solitaire would be your 9 cards and your opus, or that you lay out, your tableau.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, when you move around the map, you are going after the same locations. When you go to play in the symphony, you are battling for area control of different sections of that symphony. Like, are you contributing strings or trumpets? And if those get blocked off, then you're out of that area, and whoever has the most contribution gets the most points.
Okay.
And then as far as the memory cards and cards that you purchase, those are all they get more expensive further down the row. So you are competing for the cheaper spots. So it's not anything head to head
Yeah.
like a 4X game, but definitely medium level
Okay.
and not to the Wingspan level.
Okay. I'm just gonna add that to my card real quick.
Oh!
Throw that in my
For
Amazon
anybody
cart.
listening, my laptop and my phone is on a food tray that I keep kicking over. So
You don't have to tell him.
get to watch me fall over.
It just he just sporadically yells, oh no.
People need to know.
Yeah. All right, last
so
one, third one.
Lacrimosa,
Here we go.
Third one, I'm gonna mention names in rapid order, and I'm only gonna talk about one because these are all gems.
All
Okay,
right,
so
I'll allow it.
Rurik Dawn of Kiev, masterpiece. Oldie but love it. Already mentioned it. Either Fields. Ela and what's the rest of it? Ela and something about a tree. But anyway, it's EILA.
Okay.
And it's super cool. Ela and Something Shiny, absolutely adorable narrative game. And the one I'm going to talk about, though, well, there's Batman: The Dark Knight Returns and Fabled. I'm going to talk about Fabled because I've already talked about Batman enough. I love that. So Fabled came out. This Fabled: The Spirit Lands came out like last year, I think, 2023, and there's an expansion coming up called Fable: The Eve of Times is the expansion coming up. I was able to play all of the original Spirit Lands because that's been released, and I didn't think I would be impressed with it because laying out the cards, what it is you're laying out these large size cards to build a land, and it really just goes horizontally. Like, you're not building a big grid, you're just building one long line of these lands. And on your turn, really all you do is you decide, do you want to move one of your sages? Do you want to move them down that land? And as you move down the land, there's a lot of empty spaces, and then there are these spaces called fabled places, I believe, where you visit it and you get some kind of resource benefit. And the goal of the game is to gain the most knowledge. So the resources you collect are books of knowledge. So you're trying to travel through these lands to collect books to have the most knowledge at the end. And the books all have different values. Like, there's the books of plains. Books of prairies are the lowest value, easiest to get, and you can trade in a number of those, 2 of those to become the Book of Mountains, which is worth a little more. You can trade in 2 of those to become the Book of Forest, which is worth more. Trade in 2 of those to get the Books of Fire, I believe, which are like the ultimate. So whoever has the most Books of Fire is the one that wins. Anyway, it didn't look interesting at first because I'm like, well, all you do is you can pick to move, or you can pick to trade, your 2 books for something of a higher value, and a couple other little things that you can choose to do. And I thought that there's not much to it. Not at all. Like, it is that simple to learn, but oh my goodness, it gets complex because you also have up to 3 like guardians that you're able to collect, and they all add special abilities that you're able to use. So you end up with these chain reactions that by the time you get to the second half of the game, it is a really thinky puzzle. And that is one that, looking at it on the shelf, honestly, I was like, the art's nice.
It's beautiful.
Um,
I
the
feel like
art's
I feel bad because I
incredible.
feel like I'm distracted, but I'm like looking at it as you're talking. I'm like, holy, this game looks
I'm
nice.
telling you, this is good. Yeah, and I'm not trying to hype that up, but I was genuinely just like, okay, it looks interesting enough.
Hmm.
And I will try because it's not a high price point. I don't remember what the price is.
It's 40 on
Um,
Amazon. Like I said, I'm currently looking at it.
yeah.
And
And
that's a sweet
that's
spot
good
for
for a
it looks
board
like a
game.
lot.
It is a lot. It is a lot. Try it
Yeah,
because the art is beautiful. And even though the land tiles that you use to build out the spirit land, even though there's a lot crowded in on those cards, it's really charming.
hmm
Like, so I'm not into, you won't find a lot of the darker themes on my channel. I do like serious themes, but you're not going to find a lot of the darker fantasy stuff. It's just because it's just not me.
hmm
But this is more like fairy tale
Yeah.
land,
Yeah, it
and
looks
it makes me happy.
yeah, on the cover is like I don't know, some kind of tree fay thing. I don't know like what's on the cover, but
Yeah.
I'm drawn to it. Like I'm immediately just like, wow, this was really cool. And I guess as you're talking, I'm looking, I'm just like, I like the art, the components look
And the
good. Like
story is
it's
cool. It's not essential, but the story is cool where the gods have decided that it is time to cast all things into oblivion.
hmm
And before they do that, though, they want to leave somebody in charge who's going to be in charge of the new world that's going to come about after everything's cast in oblivion. I don't understand the technicalities of that, but somehow it works. So the point of the game is they're like, let us start a competition, and we're going to let these brotherhoods go out into the world to collect knowledge, and whoever collects the most is the one that we will allow to be the leaders after oblivion. So
mm
as you play, the spirit lands that you lay out get cast into oblivion. So like if you have a sage on a card, that card stays in the spirit lands that you're making. But as soon as you move your sage off, or when you're playing multiplayer, as soon as there's a land that has no sages on it, it gets cast into oblivion.
mm.
And so it changes the map because then you have to slide the cards together. And the way the paths work, it is they can connect or not connect depending on how you slide them together. So like when it's your turn and you get to select to either move or upgrade your books or lay down a new spirit land,
Mm.
when you lay your spirit land, you can put it to the left, to the right, in the middle. And so whether you're playing solo with the AI opponent messing up your pattern or you're interacting with others and they're messing up your paths or helping your paths, it is such a wild puzzle. I
Yeah,
loved it.
that might be covered soon.
Awesome.
It looks great hearing you talk about it. Like I like the theme and I like
Yeah.
that, we're heavy on a theme, so
Yeah.
Oblivion and being the new curators of whatever's left sounds very interesting to me.
It is. And what's neat is the story continues to the expansion, the Eve of Times,
Mm,
because they had to make an expansion because the solo mode was people really liked the solo mode. It's fantastic because
mm,
it's pretty simple, but it is an active opponent going against you.
hmm
So they made the Eve of Times because the story is there was more than one brotherhood that collected a lot of knowledge. And so the gods were very impressed and they were like, well, we need to amp it up. And so with the expansion, that's where they amp it up. So there's like 4 multiplayer scenarios, 5 solo, because you play the game in scenarios. So
hmm
even though the base rules are the same, every scenario is a different
I
game.
love that. You're just speaking
Um,
my language. Oh, scenarios
yeah,
too.
yeah, I'm
Oh,
telling you, this one surprised me because again, looking at it on the shelf, I'd be like, I like the art. But I wasn't like
have you covered this one?
if I'm going to be covering it pretty soon.
All right,
I'm
keep an
covering
eye
the
out, people.
expansion. But that's why I wanted to talk about the base one, because what I cover on the channel is the expansion.
Hmm
Um, so but anyway, with the expansion, what was neat is how much they amped up the challenge. So the whole casting into oblivion thing, it just gets nuts.
Mm.
It was really challenging. I was really nervous about doing that playthrough video because I was like, there's got to be so many mistakes, but um, apparently it's fine. So
Mm.
yeah, I think you guys might like it.
Yeah, I'm very curious on that one. That one, the other one you talked about with the music, I've heard of, And I was like curious. I'm like, oh, that looks neat. Like I like the theme of it. But
Yeah.
this one that you're talking about really has me
Yeah.
jazzed up. Like
I
it's
should
on
be
my
it should be up
Amazon
in
account.
September, I think. I think it's coming up in September.
The game itself or the expansion?
Well, my video of the
Oh, okay.
expansion. The
Gotcha,
game
gotcha.
itself, the Spirit
Is
Lands
out.
is out.
Okay.
Yeah, the Spirit Lands has been out for a good year or so, $40. But as far as my video of it, that's not till September, I don't think.
Gotcha. Um, so I'll go with three that I played recently. I think you've played as well. Soulless Lost from
I bought it and
WolfBoy.
I haven't played it yet.
You haven't played it yet? It's fantastic.
No.
So this is
Have you played Lux Eterna?
no, what is that?
Oh, okay, they looked similar, so I was going to
Okay.
see if I had a
Is it
similar
is it
point.
solo as well?
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
solo space game of the same shape.
Okay. But I know I've talked about Soulless Lost before, but this is it's a solo game that I enjoy. It's just a tiny box, bunch of cards, one die, and that's it. So it's perfect for me, like after I get the kiddo down and I'm relaxed and I just want to do something. Like there's been times where I've set up Marvel United, and after the setup, I go, I'm all right. And then I break it down. Like this is a perfect, like almost cell phone sized game. And it's a good example of a solo game because it's almost like an RPG in the sense where you're drawing cards. You are this astronaut that went too far out. You're lost in the solar system. And there's other pirates out there just kind of floating around. You need to collect 4 like beacons to be able to call for help to get home. Simple theme, but it's just card play where it's been a while since I played it, but you kind of draw cards, you draw 2, you choose one, and that's like your action. It'll be like your overdrive is going too hot. Roll 1 through 10 to this happens, roll 10 through 20, this happens. Like that's it. It's not like there's no choice, but because you choose between 2 cards, but it's just kind of like it's to the dice. It's almost like a nice like game, or not Game of Thrones, but D&D style
Yeah,
game. And I enjoy that because I was like, this is what I'm in the mood for. I'm just going to sit down. I'm going to roll dice. I'm going to play cards,
so
lose
do you like
or win.
upgrade yourself, like level up, or
Yeah. So you collect different weapons. You collect different like drives for your ship that like manipulate your die roll. So certain drives will be like add 5 to your roll or like take away from the roll of the enemy. And you have
yeah,
to beat like 4 enemy ships that randomly come out. But it's a nice like solo easy experience where it's like I said, I set it up, roll a few times, I win, lose, either way, put it back in a box. I feel
yeah.
good. I'm not frustrated. It's just like, ah, that was a good experience. Like those are my type of solo experiences. The other game I'll talk about pisses me off so much, and it's so hard, but I keep coming back to it because it's such a nice puzzle to try to figure out. Friday. Have you ever played Friday?
I have,
You're
I
smirking.
have, I have tried to get myself to play Friday. I think I bought it and I no longer have it, so I must have traded it. I know it's a classic and I know I'm supposed to play it,
Mm.
but I just can't get myself to do it.
So I've never played a game where I swore out loud so much.
Okay.
But like I'm
Because it's like
also
You're playing
yeah, you're playing
to
as
get to fight against
Friday.
pirates, right?
You're playing as Friday, the guy
Okay.
who Robinson Crusoe comes across, like the native, and names him
Yeah.
Friday because that's when he met him on the day of the week.
Yeah.
And it's a deck builder, which I love, and you're trying to help Robinson Crusoe survive on a daily basis. So, and the part that's so infuriating is he starts with the worst hand of cards, like literally negative cards, 0 cards, and like ones, and you're flipping 2 cards, you pick one, and it has like a green, a yellow, and a red. and you start with the green, and it'll be like 2. And then you have like your standard deck building cards of 5, and then you're playing the cards. But again, like, he's so bad in the beginning. It took me like 8 tries to figure out, like, oh, in the beginning you're supposed to lose, because when you lose, you're losing life, but the amount of life that you lose is the amount of cards that you're milling out of your deck. So in the beginning, I'm like, oh, it's like, I gotta win. I gotta keep manipulating and try to win. But you want to get rid of these bad cards, but you don't figure that
Yeah.
out until you play after a while. So
Which
like,
is fun. I do enjoy
yeah,
that. I like when you have to like clean out your deck.
yeah, but it's such a learning curve
It's just
from.
the art. Oh,
Don't bother me. I don't know, because
yeah.
it's a tiny.
And that's Frederick. What is it? Friedman Freeze?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It's just, the art doesn't bother me, just because it's such like, it's just a tiny card game. So I don't need like
Yeah.
bombastic art, but
I need
it
bombastic art.
there's it's just like, I've never like sworn so much playing a game, and I've never like cheated, which I hate to admit, but there's a few times where I'm like, I'm playing myself. I don't know. I could kind of cheat
Yeah.
and still lose. So I have yet to beat that game, but it might be like one of my most played like solo games at this point, because I get so frustrated.
It is well loved. I know
I
I'll
don't
like it
love it.
once I play it.
I don't love it. That's the thing. But it's like, it's such a puzzle where I'm like, I need to beat this at least once. Once I beat it, I'm gonna throw it across the room into the trash probably.
Okay.
But it's
Okay.
just like,
Send it to me and then
yeah, it's all ripped up and crumpled.
oh
But it's just like, it's such a weird game that like, it's that talk of like balance, where it's like, if this game was easy, I wouldn't
yeah.
care. I would have beat it and moved on. Where like Solis lost, which I talked about, was like a nice balance. Like, I probably lost more than I've won, so when I win, I'm like, yeah, like that felt good.
Yeah.
This game, it just like, it makes me so angry. But when I win eventually, it's gonna be the greatest thing of all time.
Yeah. And then never played
Um,
again.
yeah, I'll probably play it after this. um, Another game that I just got that I am absolutely in love with, like more than I ever thought I would be. You probably seen it on my Instagram. Just got in the mail from SolidRoots. It's called Escaping Extinction, based on a true story. This is a dinosaur game where the meteor's coming, and a group of dinosaurs have gotten together to build a spaceship to get off the planet.
Oh, you have me sold already. I like that.
The art style is like amazing. It's like this retro looking dinosaur. Like, it's all the pieces are dinosaurs and like space helmets and space suits.
Is it
And
already out?
no,
Okay.
it's coming out soon. They said the end of July, so I don't know. It's August, so maybe it should be out. I don't think it's on Board Game Geek yet. I might have the
It is not.
I might have the exclusive, but they didn't say I couldn't talk about it, so come at me, Solid Roots. But it's it might be replacing Forbidden Island as
Really?
my yes. So it plays just like Forbidden Island, but instead of collecting the 4 pieces of the temple that you kind of got to get, you're collecting pieces of your spaceship. What I love about this is a game where it's perfect for solo or 4 players, because even if you play this at 2 players, you're using all 4 pieces. So as a solo game, you're moving all 4 dinosaurs, like no matter what. So it fits perfectly for what it is. But it's 18 hexagonal tiles. There's one oasis in the middle. That's where you start. All the tiles are flipped up, so you don't know what's underneath. You have meat on your card, like 6 pieces of meat, and that's your energy to move around the map. As you're moving around, the tiles are flipping over. The tiles have wood, vines, or meat on them that you collect. When you collect, you draw a card, and the card will be like live, laugh, lava. And it'll be like, and a volcanic eruption happens, roll the die, and that's how much damage you take. Like, very simple, but like
Okay.
very fun. Very
Yes.
punny. And then
But something where the game is alive while you're playing it.
Oh yeah, everything you're doing,
Yeah.
like just kind of it's exciting and like stuff's happening. Um, Dr. Raptor, like Vela C Raptor, has
Yeah.
like a mission for you. It's like I think a piece of a piece we need for the ship is on the mountain. So you have to like move around the map to find a mountain piece. After all four of the dinosaurs go, there's a comet deck because you have a tracker with the comet that's slowly going toward the Earth, and it'll be like different things. It'll be like, hey, Dr. Velociraptor called T-Rex, so you get an extra turn that round, move the meteor 2 spaces up. Or the one thing that happens is called Earthquake, where everything that you have flipped over, you pick up, shuffle, and put back face down. So it's like the Earth is like moving and everything's messed up. So you're constantly moving around the map, unlocking these things. Your end game is to get 8 pieces of Vine tokens, and then like the 5 pieces of the spaceship, which is like they build 3D to create like a spaceship next to you.
Oh, fun.
Like I said, it's from SolidRoots. I thought they said it was coming out at the end of July, but it might not be. Maybe it's coming out a little bit later, but it's a game to look for. I've been obsessed with it. And it's
Awesome.
one of those games where I kind of just talked about it's very easy, but it's also very challenging. So the first time I played it, it was the last card for the comet. I had the last piece of the ship, and I just need to get to the oasis in the middle to like get on the spaceship to fly away. I didn't make it, so I lost. And then I played
Which
it.
is great.
Yeah, like I loved it because I was like, I was right there, and
Yeah.
it's a good balance
Yeah.
because it was like I was there. And then I played it last night, and I think I did a little better. I won, but it was like again, like it felt end of the line. Like I felt the meteors. Like
Yeah.
I felt it there. I was like, oh no, it's coming, like it's gonna get me. And so I just really enjoyed that. And I think that's
Have you tried that with RP yet?
no, it might be
Okay.
this weekend where
Okay.
I'm very curious what he thinks because he liked Forbidden Island so much. And I was,
Yeah.
as I was playing it, like I was telling my wife, I was like, this feels like Forbidden Island, but better. I was like, this might be replacing Forbidden Island because I love Forbidden Island as a gateway game, but it's very simple. Where this is simplistic, but just a little bit more. Like it's a little more like, hey, look what a game could be. Like
Yeah.
there's
Is
this and
your
this.
wife is Audra, right?
No, that's RP's wife.
That's RP's. Oh, so
Yes.
is she still the producer or is
No,
she
we
still
fired her.
fired? She was permanently fired.
She
Wow.
was permanent former
That
producer
was for
Audra
real.
because in the beginning we had a lot of licensed songs on our podcast where you'd be like, wow, how'd they get the license for this song? And then the man came knocking. We had to do a lot of
Oh,
editing.
oh no.
There's even some now that we've uploaded to YouTube that got flagged like later. So yeah, she has been fired since then. But now my wife isn't a huge gamer, which is why solo is very important for me. She'll humor me and she enjoys games here and there. She likes Azul. She likes more like abstract games. She doesn't like
Yeah.
card heavy. She doesn't like reading and doing too much. She likes a game where you just
She
kind of
play
like
is she a Quirtle player?
what's Quirtle?
Quirkle?
No. I don't even know how to play that game, so I haven't introduced that to her. But
Okay.
she likes Azul. Yeah, a lot of games like that, which is weird because I introduced her to Splendor and she didn't like that game. And I was like, what? And I was like, that game's awesome. Like, what's wrong with you? But
Yeah.
nah, that's why solo
It's not
games
as
so important to
pretty.
me because I don't have like I have a group that I play, but we're all at a certain age where it's hard to get together. It's hard for RP and I to get together at this point.
Yeah.
So just coming home after work and just being like, you know what? I want to put my phone down for a while. Let me play this game real
Yeah.
quick.
And I think that's where we connected and have stayed connected, even though different topics, because I enjoy playing with other humans.
Mm-hmm.
I do, and I do sometimes. I have in my collection, I always have a certain number of games that I enjoy playing with other people. A lot of the solo games I generally prefer a game that plays multiplayer in solo. I don't
Mm-hmm.
have a lot of just one player, but I think it's because of that, where like if I'm playing solo, it's just because I love the game and I just want to be immersed with it. So if there's no socializing during with it, I'm fine because I'm just so into and enjoying this experience.
Yeah.
All by myself, and I can stop. I play 30 minutes at a time. I never play a game all the way through. I can't
Yeah, I'm kind of
manage that.
same. There's times where the
Yeah,
game will
it
just
just
sit
stays
out.
out
Yeah.
every now and then. But then the multiplayer is like, I just want to spend time with you, and so
Mhm.
I may not enjoy this one solo, but it's just fun.
Yeah.
It's just a fun. It's still a solid game.
That's why we do a lot of IP beer and pretzel games on on our channel. Like just because RP and I don't get along, or not, we get along. Um, we don't get together that much. Where it's just like, all right, like I enjoy spending time with you, and we're gaming. And so it's just like a
Yeah.
lot of light games. That's
Tell
why
me
we don't
more
cover
about
like
you
a
and
lot of
RP don't get along.
yeah.
Tell
So
me
the
more about
secret's
that,
out now.
Brian.
Cut that. Cut that. So that's
Is
why we
that
don't
why I'm here?
cover.
What's going on?
Yeah, that's why you're here. Yeah, the replacement. That's why we cover like a lot of IP easy games and not Euros because I personally don't like Euros that much and like these heavy big games. Like I like a faster
Yeah.
IP game, but
What is a Euro? Anyway, that's a whole other topic.
that's save that for another episode, the Euro
Okay.
episode, and I'll find somebody else to talk bore
Okay.
everybody with it. Speaking of other people coming on, I just want to thank you so much for joining me. You're our first real guest, I mean, you're my friend, but first, like, non-friend, peer guests that we've had on. We've had a short list of people, and you've always been my number one. So I'm glad that we're able to finally connect. And
Yeah, well,
hopefully you
I
enjoyed
hope.
this experience and come back again.
Oh, I would love to. No, I thoroughly enjoyed it. To anybody listening, make sure I know I did, so I can say it honestly. Leave a review because I think, or stars or something, because I think that's probably how when I searched for board games, that's probably the reason it came up is
Hmm.
if people are leaving something. So
Yeah, it
if I
definitely
will do the
helps.
plug, I'm doing the plug for you because I think you guys do an
I,
excellent job,
I
and I
stopped
want
doing
you
the
to keep
plug.
doing it for fun.
Well,
Yeah.
I will give you a plug. Be sure to follow Mike at Board Games for One on Instagram and his YouTube. Both are phenomenal. His shorts are great, except for the one where you were like bridging
I look
cards.
really good in
That
shorts.
pissed me off. But you have great videos, great
What about the
shorts.
chicken? You didn't, you like the chicken?
Which one was the chicken?
I ate chicken and I rubbed my
You,
fingers all over the cards. And
oh no,
that was Fabled. That was
I
Fabled.
oh no,
If
that
you want to
beautiful
see
art.
If you want to see Fabled get covered by chicken,
I'll go
chicken
back.
fingers.
I'm pretty sure I saw that one, but the bridging the cards was so much more. I was like, oh, those poor
But that's
cards,
for real. I really do that to
unsleeved
all
cards.
my games,
Oh,
especially Marvel Champions.
oh, RP thinks I'm nuts. Where I just buy sleeves.
Yeah.
He's like, "What are you doing that for? You don't play it enough." I was like, "But I
That might
do."
change though, because Lorcana is coming out with a solo, or they came out with
That
a solo
Ursula's
Lorcana.
Revenge. Yeah, I'm curious about
So
that one.
I'm gonna have to branch into it and try it out. And if I do a collect or like Star Wars Unlimited, if I do a collectible card game, I might sleeve.
Board Games for One, Instagram, YouTube, great content. And thank you again for joining us. Anything else you want to plug? Anyone else you want
No.
to plug? I mean, we're Hidden Gems is big. I've enjoyed those guys a lot. Definitely check those out.
Oh, as far as others, I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm
Yeah.
good. There is another really good channel. I feel like he's a good counterpart to me is Board Game Dave. He's a good buddy. Kind of like with you, like I started to get to know him at the beginning of all this,
Mm,
and he does plenty of solo content too, but he has a more organized approach than me.
okay.
Um,
Not
and
not surprising.
yeah, yeah. Hey. But anyway, I think he has some pretty good stuff right in line with it. We have kind of similar styles. He's a little
Mm,
more on the practical Euro side, but just a little more.
okay.
So other than that, no plugs. I'm sorry if I didn't plug somebody.
That's fine.
But no, it's been a
Plug
pleasure,
yourself.
and thank you everybody for listening to me.
Yeah, like I said, come back whenever. The
Yeah,
door's always open. If you find another solo
I
game you
have
want
your
to rant
number now.
about, just come on in. But
Yeah,
all right, everybody, thank you for joining us. Stay tuned for our next episode. Maybe we'll be playing that dinosaur game with RP, or I'm sure I have some other game that he'll halfway like and poop on just to make me miserable. But thank you again, and goodbye.
Goodbye.